This is George Dionne with Metal Express Radio, and I'm here with Brandon Gibbs. How you doing, Brandon?
Doing wonderful. Again, thank you for having me on, George.
No problem. Thanks for being here. If I knew absolutely nothing about Brandon Gibbs, how would you describe your music to me?
Well, I would say that my music is kind of a melting pot of blues, rock, country, I guess. I grew up heavily influenced in the blues, and that kind of shaped my guitar playing, and then heavily influenced singing wise with Chris Cornell, Greg Allman, a lot of the classics, so I just kind of meet in the middle, and at the same time I have kind of a modern sense of melody, pop melody. So I know that doesn't like pinpoint it, sniper it down, but it's kind of a blues rock country with a poppy melody to it.
I agree completely with that description, so don't worry about it.
Yes.
So you got a new single out. It's called Lost Boys. Why don't you talk a little bit about the single?
Well, Lost Boys, okay, so it'll be released March 8th, and it's pretty much a year to the day of when I basically was sent home for, the pandemic. And at the time, I just remember being at the airport going, what is going on? It was like the zombie apocalypse. And I knew the moment I got there that everything was going to be different for quite some time. Well, my label got in touch with me and said, we got to get you back in the studio. Rain Whiskey did really well. Leave did really well. And they said, do what you do. I have pretty much 100% creative control with my label. And I'm sure they would tell me, we'd have a conversation if they really didn't like what I do. But so far, they just write what you write and do what you do. And so the pandemic, the wildfires that were happening at the time, the politics that everyone seemed to be going after each other in some sort of fashion, and in order to not be depressed about it, I had to just kind of put my thoughts on paper, and it came out to, it's very real. Whether you're a fan of music or the arts, you're an artist, none of us have had this kind of time off ever. I've been doing this since I was 14, and I've never had this kind of time. And so a little depression set in, and then amongst the mass chaos, people not being able to have proper funerals, say goodbye to their loved ones, sickness, illness. And so all the lyrics in the song just about how I coped with it. And one of the lines is, people hang on, there's a storm and some weather. I keep hearing things are going to change for the better. Who's in charge? Is there a man on the scene? People living out of line, no one ever coming clean. And it's just like every time you turn on the television, that's what I was thinking. And so no political message, but you can't help but feel like lost as it gets. And in the video that goes with it, Steven Spielberg will not be calling me anytime soon. I can tell you this, because it is just about my time at home, losing my mind as an artist, but trying to find ways to be great with my daughter and still positive and things like that. And so we did funny things like dance a lot and this and that. And I truly was out of my element. And it's just kind of how I coped with it. I had a wonderful time spending time with my daughter, uninterrupted time, but we just did funny things to kind of get us through. And because what else is there,
Absolutely. There's basically, what you have at home. And for you, someone that's a musician, you can get a little more creative during these downtimes rather than hitting the road.
That's the one thing about the road is I don't really get out on the road and write because you're shuffled from one spot to the next. And any downtime you do have, you want to catch up with your family or just get rest in general. So this time, Rain Whiskey came out just a little bit before the pandemic. Then Leave came out. A song called Testify came out. I mean, I really got all these ideas that were partially done. I started finishing them, and Lost Boys is one of those, one of the riffs. I always had that riff in my head, and it was I had plenty of time to mess with it. So yeah, I'm very, very proud of this track.
Well, let's talk about a couple of the other singles that came before it. Before Lost Boys, you released Leave in 2020. Why don't you talk about that song?
Okay, so I have this vision. I call it the OT crew. It's the other table crew, as I refer to it. The youth is everything to me, and I have a daughter and I have nieces, and I've gone through so many trials and tribulations in my life, being talked down to or being told I'm not good enough, and I'm not immune to it anymore. I mean, people still try and get at you, but sometimes, people do this. And even in the workplace, adult workplace, people just kind of come in and attack you for no reason just because they're unhappy people. And I just came up with this course, like, leave that boy alone, leave that girl alone, leave them all alone. Let them live their lives. Let them be colorful. Let them have imagination. And it's essentially an anti-bullying song. But it doesn't just stop. It doesn't stop and start with the youth. It goes all the way into everyday living. If you don't have anything nice to say, as they say, don't say it at all. And if you can't accept that, then leave.
So you also do anti-bullying speeches and stuff like that. So obviously it's something close to your heart.
It really is. I just don't ever want to see a kid walk down the hallway with their head down. I don't ever want to. I want them to wake up excited to go to school, to learn. School's not a place where you should have to defend yourself. School's a place where you carve out your future plans and get excited about learning. It's not a place where you dread because there's someone there that's trying to make you feel less than. And another thing, you can truly do whatever you want if you put your mind to it. That's also in the message, and I'm living proof of that. I'm from a small town, a river town in Iowa, and I had so many people tell me I'd never do anything, never amount to anything. I'll be flipping burgers, which, by the way, I love doing. And so I always thought that's not that big of an insult. I love flipping burgers, but it was just a way to say you're nothing and you won't amount to anything. And so I kind of harnessed that energy, that negative energy that was always poured on top of me. And I said, you know what? BS. Well, I'll do whatever I want. If it's on my mind, I'm going to be free about it. And so I try and instill that in the anti-bullying message and get them excited about their future, be it the music industry, playing soccer, football, doctor, nurse, anything. Just trying to get them excited about waking up and going to school and making the best out of it.
Excellent. You had another single that you mentioned, Rain Whiskey, in 2019. Do you want to go a little bit into that?
Yeah, sure. So Rain Whiskey kind of shows, I love having parties. I absolutely love having get-togethers. I love cooking for friends and things like that. And I would do it every other day if I could. That's how much I love this. I love to see these people in my life, and I don't apologize at all for throwing down, having a good time. And some of the comments I hear, like after I have a party, is, "Oh, thank you, I needed that. Man, we had a gas. I can't stop smiling." Things like that. And I'm like, you should pay attention to that side of yourself. Free yourself, go have a good time. And obviously, it's not raining whiskey, but that's just one of those things. Just let yourself go. I think that's even in the lyrics of the song. Let yourself go and just enjoy life, and make relationships, create friendships, and essentially have one big drink together, have one big toast together. That's Rain Whiskey in a nutshell.
Are you a whiskey fan?
I really So in Devil City Angels, it got out that we are big whiskey drinkers.
Yeah.
And the truth is, none of us were. But it became a thing that, in our rider, our tour manager would come on every night with this great big bottle of Jack Daniels. And he goes, all right, who ordered the Jack? And I'm like, I kind of stick to beer or something like that. I don't really go outside of this. Well, he goes, I don't know. You guys got like a cabinet full of them. So we started doing this thing where we'd take the cap off and we'd do a little band swig, a band prayer or whatever. And for me, it actually helped my throat.
Sure.
It just kind of cleaned it out, made it feel like I was ready to holler and not be so cold and unrehearsed. So I sip on whiskey before I play, and maybe a little sip after, but I never have any at the house. But we just took pictures of us all drinking whiskey all the time, and it exploded. My grandmother called me. She called me one time and she goes, Brandon, I'm on the internet and all I see is pictures of you drinking Jack Daniels. She's like, do we need to talk? And I had to explain to her that we're really just kind of making fun of the fact that everyone thinks that we need to have whiskey and they keep giving it in moderation.
Absolutely. But the best place to have whiskey is in the home because it's cheaper.
Oh, yes. my buddy Joel and I have a running joke about $50 bourbon night. We were playing at Opry Mills in Nashville for a Mac Tools convention. And I was like, hey, let's go have a nightcap, and he's a big bourbon guy. Anyways, he orders a shot of it. And I'm not kidding. I don't know if it was the top shelf. I don't know if he even knew what he was ordering, but it was $50 a shot. And I'm like, well, at that price, let's just stay here all night. I mean, my God, this is, so it was kind of ridiculous. But
your 2017 EP, October 24, you had a song on there called Hero. It's kind of a tribute to first responders.
Yeah.
Were you involved in something that first responders kind of touched your life, or what? Do you know people in the field?
So what inspired that song? Early on in my career, my brother was a bandmate of mine and a wonderful drummer and a wonderful singer-songwriter. In 2010, we decided that we'd be moving on to separate things. Well, he had a career planned in law enforcement. Honest to God, I was devastated. It was my first band, and a lot of the doors, we opened for everybody. I mean, really had a great run, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life afterwards. I moved to Tennessee just about the time my brother starts his law enforcement career. Well, I was on tour with a couple of the Cinderella guys, and we went through Iowa, and I called my brother, and he goes, why don't you do a ride along? And I'm like, oh, I've heard of those. And really in curiosity, I wanted to know what he does every day and things he sees and kind of understand. I mean, what we do in music and travel is pretty cool. And once it's going, it's really hard to imagine doing anything else because of the cool things you get to see and we're blessed. And so I'm going, all right, now he's in public service. I just want to see for myself. So I go to his house, 7 a.m. We go to the police station, and he has a shift from 7 to 7, I believe. And about 3 o'clock, I'm riding along, and nothing really happened, and a couple traffic stops. And I'm going, all right, well, this is not as interesting as I thought, right? Well, then all of a sudden he got a call on the comm, his walkie-talkie or comm, and said there's been a girl hit, a young girl crossing the street. Not hit on her bike, but hit walking across the street by a car. And I think she was 6 or 7. And my face, everything was as white as my shirt. I'm a dad. I have a daughter, and I thought, I don't know if I can take this. And he looked at me and he said, well, you can leave, you can get out now, but this is as real as it gets. And I had to stay. And so he went lights and sirens to this call, and there's people standing around this young girl who just wants to see her parents, and her leg is mangled. And how he handled that situation, he came in. I want to say he said a prayer with her, told her he was a police officer. He's there to help. Made eye contact with her the whole time. I think even had her laughing a little bit, constantly talked about how her parents are on the way and you're not alone and I'm not going to leave you and it's going to be all right. And as the ambulance comes and she gets loaded in the ambulance, it's the hottest day of the year, I swear. And he's sweating profusely and he gets in his car and he just kind of, puts his hands on his head, and I go, it was like I saw like a Superman cape on him, how he handled that. And that is essentially what I wrote The Hero about. You are the hero. You are the man I called. All eyes on you now. Pick me up before I fall. When you're in when you're in a situation where you just want your mom and dad and you're hurt and you need someone to look up to, that's my ideal police officer right there. And I couldn't have been more proud. So yeah, that song is heavily written about that particular incident.
I've been in law enforcement for 23 years, actually.
Have you really?
I have, and I do this to kind of show people that we're just like everyone else. I was in a rock band too, locally, just to show people, we're not really these people they portray us to be, on television and the media and stuff like that. We're just like you. We have families like you. We deal with things like you, and we've seen a lot. we deal with a lot, and I can definitely feel for your brother. I was tearing up a little there. I'm like, this parallels my life a little bit. But
God bless you.
You wrote a song like that.
Well, I just appreciate you guys so much, and looking after the youth and handling the scariest situations that a civilian like myself, I don't know what I would do if I was the only person. I guess you don't know until you find out, and you guys do this over and over and over again. And so we are thankful and blessed to have people like yourself and my brother for looking after what's important.
And I appreciate your song to the trade.
You bet.
You're signed to Golden Robot. You've been with them since 2019. Are you going to continue to release singles under them, or are you leading your way to another EP or a full album?
I think we're going to have a discussion about whether we're going to do an EP or continue to go down the track to a full album. When I signed with them, it was just one of those things where everyone's excited about singles and releasing new videos and new singles, and you kind of stopped hearing about albums so much, just like people release. So I'm like, well, if you want to do that with me leading up to a full album, I'm happy to do that. It's less stress, going in and all right, let's create a whole album. I'm one of those guys that likes to marinate in the music. For instance, the Hero would not have come in a writer's round or I have to live it. I have to, bleed for it. And so that's my deal with them, is to release singles, and then we're going to release we're going to take all this material and release a full Brandon Gibbs record, which I could not be more excited about. An EP sounds great because we're almost there, but I kind of want to stay in the long haul and get that full Brandon Gibbs record. This is my first time being signed as just Brandon. I've been signed before with Devil City, but this is a big deal for me. So I think we're going to take our time and get the material out there and hopefully keep people's interest.
Excellent. You mentioned Devil City Angels. You guys actually put out a single last year, Testify. What is the status of Devil City's Angels? Because it's been a little bit since the full album came out. It was 2015.
Yeah.
So where are you with that? I know with touring on hold, obviously that's a huge cog in the wheel.
Yeah. Well, I have this. I kind of have this thing where, I want to constantly create, and I have to. And I just turned 36 last week, and so I'm going to continue to create and do things for Brandon Gibbs. But Devil City is a baby of mine, and I am the singer of that band. And so My door for Devil City, whether it be recording or doing shows, is wide open. I'm happy to have any conversation with Rocket or whomever to go and do things. I don't push, I don't push people to get things together. I have this rule where I think it should come together naturally or wait until it does. So my door's wide open. We have a new manager, and if he says it's time to ramp up, I will carve time to ramp up.
You also played with Ricky Rocket in a Poison, I don't want to call it tribute band, but you played in a band that played Poison songs called The Special Guests.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that till I started looking up your biography and what was going on. How did that opportunity come about?
All right. So essentially that group was Poison, Poison-ish, I guess. Bret Michaels was not in that lineup. I was filling his shoes for that lineup. And Bret has a very successful solo career, and those guys wanted to go play some shows. I was already out on the road with Ricky and our band, the Devil City Angels. And so as they were searching for the right guy, I think Ricky just said, well, why don't you use my guy? During the Devil City Angels set, we paid a little we'd be stupid not to. We paid a little tribute to his, Poison material, his Poison catalog. So not to mention, I've opened for those guys when I was a young man. I knew the stuff. I knew the material. And so they just called me into this meeting. I think it was in a gym at the hotel we were staying at, and said, do you want to consider this? Well, I'm a risk taker, and that one, I wanted to do it. Of course. Two, I wanted to make sure I did it right and have the utmost respect for Mr. Michaels and not mock or copy anything. And so they just let me be Brandon. And rehearsal, I stayed true to myself and true to the material. And it was their fans I was entertaining. It wasn't my fans. And I just had I made fans after that. But just having that mentality, like I'm here to serve and do the best I can. And if you've ever been to a Poison show, it's like a big Margaritaville. I mean, everyone's happy, and to be on stage for 75 minutes singing hit after hit after hit, that's kind of a dream come true, really. To play the first chord to Every Rose Has Its Thorn, and even though I didn't write it, you just watch the place start to light up, and it's kind of like that movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
One moment you're on the side of the stage cheering them on, and the next moment you have the microphone and you're playing the material. So it was pretty rad, man. I'm not gonna lie.
What is the status of your Cheap Thrill band?
That's one thing. I started that in 2012. That's another one where the door is always open. And Cheap Thrill played. We had a nice year booked. 2020, actually, to be honest with you. We started out in Las Vegas. We went to Phoenix. We did St. Louis. We had St. Louis, Green Bay, this and that, and of course we had to taper off. But it's such an amazing. It's an evolving door of characters, and everybody that I bring into that is a wonderful person that you want to be around, you want to spend time with, and go to the airport with, or ride in the van with, because you're laughing till you're crying. And so that's probably something that'll never really go away. And of course, it's all based on availability. Everybody that's in it has 2 or 3 other things, like myself. So the status is active. And Troy Patrick Farrell is our drummer right now. He's a good friend of mine, and we kind of just steer the ship and find the players that can add to the story and be a colorful character. That's what Cheap Thrill kind of really is.
You also have
a bunch of dorks on stage, and we stand by that.
All right. You have an acoustic project with Joel Hoekstra, who I spoke with a couple weeks ago. Is that, with touring off the table, obviously there's probably not much going on with that.
Him and I have a couple dates actually this year.
Oh, nice.
In a Northeast state and somewhere else. I don't know. I just know I got an email saying we have I think there's two to be exact. That is such a wonderful show. I love acoustic music. He does as well. Obviously, he's one of the best he's one of the best guitar players in the world, in my opinion, and other people's opinions. I mean, he's a phenomenal human being. So that is open too, and that's one of those things when Whitesnake tapers down for a time or share, and I find time. We just do a 2 or 3 week thing. Go play some small, intimate places. We played some really wonderful casinos and tell stories. And I try and keep it as, I don't like just sitting up there and playing songs. I like to really open the door and be interactive, and that gives me a chance. That particular campfire tour gives me a chance to be interactive with the fans and also learn from my partner. I'm a guitar player first, and so to play with someone on that level, it's an education for me as it is work.
Right. You played with a lot of great musicians, including Joel Hoekstra, and you've opened for the Doobie Brothers and Poison and REO Speedwagon and all these other big-time bands. Is there an experience that you've had with these bands or players that really stands out in your mind?
Oh, I have so many. So many. I'll tell you this, just because recently it was the anniversary of his death. You remember Jeff Healey?
Yeah, he played the guitar in his lap. Yeah.
So I'm a huge blues guitar player. I'm a huge blues, well, let me rephrase that. I'm a huge blues guitar player fan. I cut my teeth on blues, and I believe I played blues the best more than any other. And I was so excited to open up for him when I was young. I want to say it was the year 2000 or something. And we were in Sarasota, Florida, and I just saw Jeff get out, and I'm like, that's a rock star, blues star, whatever you want to call him. I hope I get a chance to spend some time with him. But I was always kind of groomed by my parents. Hey, when you have these opportunities, you need to do your gig and get out of the way. At that young time, if you get the opportunity to play in front of 6,000 people, do it and be good and get out of the way. Be a positive experience for whomever hired you. And so I was a little shy. I didn't really say anything to him. I was just in awe. Well, he does his set afterwards. The promoter came up to me and says, I know you guys aren't 21, but if you bring your dad or mom with you, you can do the after party with Jeff Healey. And I'm going, what? Like there's an after party, And so we go to this club called the Classic Wax in Sarasota, and it's not big at all, man. 120 people probably packed the heck out of it. And they ask us to go up and do a set, my band. And so we do a set. Right in the middle of the set, the manager comes up and says, hey, Jeff Healey's listening to you guys. Can he come up and jam, and can he play your guitar? And so I was like, oh my God, So I'm like, yeah. So Jeff comes up. I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, hey, what do you need? What do you need? Like, I turned into Jeff's guitar tech for a second. And, it was such a small stage. I probably could have got up and played with him. I don't know if there wasn't enough amps or whatever, but his band got up there. He goes, hey man, will you take that whammy bar off for me? Will you take your strap off? Okay. And then he goes, let me just give this a run. And then he just starts this, yes, I'm lonely. And it's just small place. And I'm right next to him, just geeking out, like moving his cables for him. It was kind of like the coolest experience. I mean, I was excited to just be a guitar tech for that 10 minutes, I guess it was 15 minutes he was on stage.
That's a great story, actually. I think Jeff Healey was very underrated.
Yes, absolutely. The other one would be probably my first big show. I was 14. I got a call to open up for Peter Frampton. And as a 14-year-old, that was terrifying because it was a great bill. It was us, Peter Frampton, and in Creedence Clearwater Revisited. And so there was 10, 12,000 people there. That was my first time playing in front of what looked like a sea of people.
Well, it's great talking to you today, Brandon. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with Metal Express Radio.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Keep getting the good word of music out, and thank you for doing what you do, man.